Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to HBH Podcast. Are you ready? Ready?
Scream 7 is out, and of course we were going to do a show on it. We're going to review it. If you guys have not seen Scream 7, I do not recommend listening to this podcast right now because we are going to be talking about spoilers. We are putting everything on the table. So if you haven't seen Scream 7, I recommend watching the movie first, then come back and give this podcast a listen. If you have seen Scream 7, I recommend grabbing some snacks, a drink, something like that, because we're probably going to be here for a little bit. So, I want to start this out by saying Scream 7 has divided the fans already. I said this in our prediction podcast, that I think that Scream 7 is going to be the most divisive Scream film, and I think it is. Scream 7 is definitely hated by a lot of people. Scream 7 is also loved by a lot of people. And I have seen the movie twice in theaters now. I went Thursday night on the 26th, and then I went tonight on Friday the 27th. And man, I'll tell you what, going to see Scream 7 reminds me of like why I love the horror genre. So both nights that I went, the crowd actually had some sort of reaction to the film. Now, back in the days when people would go to the drive-ins or just see films in general, there would always be some sort of reaction from the audience. If you go on YouTube, you can usually find like audience reacting to iconic horror scenes, like in horror movies or just any movie in general. Like back in the days, people were throwing popcorn at the screens. Like everybody was reacting to the films. Today, you don't get that as much. Every once in a while, you'll get that with a horror film. I had some sort of reaction from the audience, and when I seen Halloween 2018, same with Terrifier 2, and now Scream 7. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. Where I live at, we have a very small theater. There's only 3 screens, and I went Thursday night, as I said, and I went tonight, which is Friday, and both nights were packed. I mean, packed for where I'm at, because I live in a very small town in Indiana, and it's not Pine Grove, but I live in a small town in Indiana, and the reactions were crazy. So the first night I went, I'm not going to say what scene yet, because obviously we haven't talked about the film, and I know I'm blabbing. Also, Horrorman93 is here, folks. So just give me a second here. Seeing Scream last night was so fun because there's a certain scene that happens in the movie where my audience gasped. I mean, they were literally like, like it was so cool. And then tonight I went. Somehow tonight, which is technically opening night, was even better than Thursday. So the audience reaction was just amazing. I'm not going to get into the scene yet, but basically my point is this is why I love the horror genre. The horror genre will always be my favorite genre because going to a movie and having people react to what they're seeing on the screen is like one of the coolest things ever to me. And I just had to get on here and talk about that real quick because I just think that's cool when there's actually a reaction to something on screen. And I'm great and it's great that Scream 7 got the audience intrigued enough to react to the film, is what I'm trying to say. But let's talk about the film. And actually, first off, how are you doing, Horror Man? Like, the people, like, it's like 4 minutes in and you haven't said anything because I don't know how to shut up. So how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. So, we're talking about Scream 7. We did our prediction episode. Thank you to everyone who listened to that show. Let's just get into this because it's already going to be a long episode as it is. I'm going to start this out. I'm not going to talk too much about the story yet, I guess. I want to start this out with a simple, did we like the movie or not? Because, again, as I mentioned in the beginning of this show, this is going to be the most divisive Scream film in the entire franchise. Most people are hating, well, not most people. A lot of people are hating it. A lot of people are liking it. I personally am a fan of Scream 7. Now, I have some problems with it, which we'll get into, but I personally like Scream 7. So, Horror Man, tell them if you like Scream 7 or not.
Yep, I loved it. I
You
loved Scream
loved
7.
it.
Loved it. I loved it more than 5 and 6 put
Wait,
together.
whoa, don't no, don't say that yet, because I want to also announce on this show that we are going to also do a Scream ranking podcast, because I have not ranked this franchise since, like, there was only 4 movies when I ranked it. So I want to go through and re-rank the franchise. That's probably going to be the next HBH podcast. But me and Horrorman both liked Scream 7. So I guess I'll let Horrorman start with this. Horrorman, tell me, let's start out with, tell me your let's start out with the opening. What did you think of the opening to Scream 7?
I thought the opening was better than some of the openings in previous movies. Like, I would choose that opening over Scream 4 opening. I really liked them going into the Schumacher's house, and it kind of became kind of like a museum in a way. There's like this animatronic ghost face up in there, which I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it was a motion sensor animatronic, which I really would like to have one of those. But yeah, the opening was pretty solid. I like the opening kills. The one
Yeah.
kill with Ghostface kills that girl's boyfriend with the knife in his head. That was a great kill. And then her kill was very good too. Her hanging on to that chandelier thing, and she falls off, and she falls onto his Ghostface knife. I
Yep.
thought that was great. But yeah, opening, I like it more than Scream 4's opening, maybe even Scream 5's opening. So it's very, very solid. Um, but I did like it when they burned down the house too. Ghostface did. When he poured the gasoline on the girl, that was kind of graphic too. I was like, oh, he's gonna burn her alive too.
Yeah, Scream 7's opening is awesome. I've heard people say that it's not a good opening. I really enjoy the opening to Scream 7, because there's,
Yeah,
like, to me, like, I've talked about this before. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast. Like, Scream 4's opening um is kind of repetitive to me, because we're going through stab movie after stab movie after stab movie. Scream 5's opening, it's just them playing it safe pretty much.
yeah,
Scream 6, that opening's great. The first 3 movies have great openings. Scream 7 for me is up there. I really enjoyed the opening. I like the characters in the beginning. Of course, we're not set to get attached to them, but I actually liked them. Just the little bit of screen time that they had in the opening, I thought they were cool. And the opening was done very well. I like the scene where, it's not actually Ghostface. We find out that it's the boyfriend, but where he's like in the shadows, dressed as Ghostface to scare his girlfriend, and he like slowly comes out of the darkness like Michael Myers does in the original Halloween. I thought
yeah,
that was super cool. I thought that was awesome. And the kills are great. When he stabs dude like in the temple and his eye turns and everything, and with the fight between him and the girlfriend,
hmm,
and her falling over the railing, you talked about hanging off the chandelier, she gets stabbed and then he burns her alive. And just from that, you guys can tell that this is 100% one of the most brutal Ghostface in the entire franchise, in my opinion. I think that there's another kill I'm sure we're going to be talking about here shortly that
hmm.
is really extreme, but this Ghostface is not playing around, that for sure. I think it's a solid opening.
Yeah,
Um,
I really like that callback to John Carpenter's Halloween with Ghostface in the darkness, and you see that little bit of white light on him. Yeah,
yeah,
that was definitely a good decision, I would think, from Kevin Williamson, because Kevin Williamson. I'm pretty sure I heard him say John Carpenter's Halloween is his all-time favorite horror movie. So
yeah, and
there's
that
the inspiration behind that.
right, and that leads me into Kevin Williamson directing Scream 7. I know most of you should know that by the time of us recording that. And he did a great job with it. But let's get into, how do you feel about, let's start with this. How do you feel about Sidney Prescott in this movie, or Sidney Evans?
I think Nell Campbell, she brought one of her best performances in this movie.
Hmm.
Out of the franchise, I would probably put it maybe top three performances. I think it was really good. I like how she's like protective over her daughter because of all the trauma and experience that she has with Ghostface. So she's trying to protect her. Because there's callbacks in a lot of callbacks in this movie. Like when her boyfriend is coming through the window, that's a callback to the original. and she's just a very protective mother, and which is understandable because she's been through this like for 5 movies because she wasn't in 6. But yeah, Nell Campbell definitely gave a great performance. I love her character arc as the mom role. It's different because we know that she had kids in Scream 5, so she has a couple kids. She has the Tatum and then the little kids that she was with the stroller in Scream 5. So maybe
What's a
that was
scroller?
the stroller she was jogging with the kids.
It's like a stroller mixed with scrotum. A scroller?
Stroller. Yeah, she was great. Like, there's no bad performances from Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott or Sidney Evans in this movie. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love her.
that's what I wanted to say. Like Sydney, Nev Campbell's performance as Sydney Prescott, Sydney Evans, whatever, is great in this movie. She's great in all of them, but like her performance in this compared to Scream 5, where she takes a back seat really in
Mm,
Scream 5, which is a shame. She shines in Scream 7. Like Scream 5 and 6 was not about Sydney Prescott. Scream
mm,
5 just featured Sydney. It was more about the Carpenter sisters in those films. And this is the first Scream movie to be like a Sydney movie since Scream 4. So, her performance was awesome. I love her being in, I've heard people say this, being in that mama bear mode, very protective
mm,
over Tatum. And I loved it. I thought that this is definitely one of her best performances in the entire franchise, for sure. I had
yeah.
to mention her first because, I mean, it's Sydney. She was a big key point of Scream 7. So that leads me into, what are your thoughts on Isabel May, who plays her daughter Tatum?
I thought I didn't have a problem with her performance either. I thought she was pretty solid. I like a lot of scenes that she's in, like especially towards the end of the movie. Like that's where she really shined to me. In the final act, because she kind of like, she with Nell Campbell, Sydney in this movie, she's like kind of like protecting her, but she wants to like wear her jacket that she wore in like Scream 2 from the college, Windsor College, and she's kind of like trying to shield her from all of that. Like she was saying you can like search it online and stuff, but she didn't want to ask her questions personally about it. So that's really her art. Like,
I feel like Tatum is a great character. I love
hmm
how um, she's not like this tough Sydney Prescott character right out of the gate. I like that um, that Sydney tried to keep her away from what she's been through, and I love that Tatum isn't just immediately some strong, tough character. Like I love that it, that she's wanting to be stronger, but she's not yet. I love that character development because, by the time that we get to the end of the movie, she's a lot tougher than she is more toward the beginning. And that arc is going to continue all the way into Scream 8, which, I mean, come on, people, let's be honest. We're going to get a Scream 8. Scream 7 is on track to be like probably at least the second highest grossing Scream movie. So we're going to get a Scream 8, and they're going to continue with who lived in Scream 7. But I think Isabel May is great as Tatum. I think she does a great job at playing Sydney's daughter for sure. And then we have McKenna Grace, who plays Hannah Thurman, which is one of Tatum's friends. She also was featured in the new Ice Nine Kills song "Twisting the Knife," which is great. Shout out to Ice Nine Kills. I thought she was good in it too. Like, I think the whole cast was good. I think that there's some characters that are stronger than others, but I thought McKenna Grace was good as Hannah Thurman. What are your thoughts on McKenna Grace's performance?
like you said, all the cast was great. I didn't have any problem with any of their performances. Her death scene is probably my favorite in the movie, where she's like
Right.
suspended into the air and
Oh, that's
Ghostface
your
comes out
favorite
of it.
kill?
Yeah, probably. Or
Wow.
my second favorite, maybe the other one is. But they both were great. But all the kills in the movies are great. But
Yeah.
yeah, her
Oh,
kill especially, like, Ghostface is like stabbing her while she's up in the air, and then like cuts her in half, and her liver comes out, her guts. So I
They're
think this Scream movie was particularly more gory than some of the rest in the franchise.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, you guys have no idea like how much more brutal Ghostface is in this one. I mean, she's literally, so what's happening is there's a play happening that Tatum's involved with, Hannah's involved with,
Yeah,
and Hannah's character is on this, what would you even call it?
like suspended in the air on like this like
Yeah,
harness or something,
yeah,
like a
she's on a
harness.
harness and she's swinging back and forth because she's supposed to be like flying. That's the illusion. And she gets tied up in it because Ghostface is messing around, obviously, because they're practicing, they're rehearsing for this play. And he comes in there and, he cuts her arm, he cuts her leg, and then he just basically holds the knife up and she swings and it cuts her stomach like completely open, which was a great kill. Like, Ghostface is not playing any games in this.
Yeah, her intestine comes out. So pretty much he gutted her.
Yeah. And of course, we gotta mention Chad and Mindy. I have to mention them because I'm gonna say right now that this is their best performances in Scream 7, I think. Like, at first I fought between this and 6 cuz they're great in Scream 6. They're great in Scream 5 too. But like, to me, I think Chad and Mindy are like amazing in Scream 7. I love that, where those characters have gone. I love what they do with those characters. Chad and Mindy are now working for Gale, which is kind of funny, but like, I just love those characters. So like, Chad getting stabbed like 6,000 times in Scream 6 is ridiculous, but I'm not going to lie. I'm glad that he lived. I'm glad that they're doing so much more with Chad and Mindy, and I'm glad that they live through Scream 7 because I actually want to see them again. I really like those characters.
Yeah, I liked them too in Scream 7, probably the most out of the three films they have been in. And I definitely want to see them back in Scream 8. Mindy, she's kind of like wanted to be like the new Gail Weathers in a way. She wanted to
Yeah.
be a reporter, and I think she did get. Didn't she get stabbed in the movie too? In this one,
She
but
got
she
cut.
survived.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them got cut, but you see them at the end, kind of like in Scream 6 when you see Mindy running at the end of that movie. But yeah, they were great. They're probably their best performances out of the three movies
And
that
now
they
I
have
want to get
made.
into where my audience reacted to something since we're on the topic of Chad and Mindy and Gale. So, if you've seen Scream 7, you all know Gale's first appearance in this film. So, we have a ghost face that is attacking Mark, Sydney, and Tatum. And, Mark gets injured through this fight. He ends up fighting this ghost face outside, like out in their front yard. And, they fight so much throughout the yard that this ghost face ends up rolling out into the road. And this ghost face stands up, and you don't expect it. This ghost face gets ran over. And let me just say that my entire theater erupted in laughter when that happened. And then when Courtney Cox walks out of the car that hit this ghost face, dude, people went nuts. It was such a cool reveal. One of the coolest moments in this movie because personally, since we're talking about characters, I think that they kind of underused Gale Weathers. I think they could have done so much more with her. But her reveal, like her introduction to this film, is phenomenal. Like, people went nuts, and it was like the coolest thing ever. And that was the moment that really made me go, this is what horror is about. It's so cool when people react to stuff like that. But that was also a good twist for the Scream franchise. We've never had that happen. So there really is technically a Ghostface reveal, like at the midpoint of this movie.
Yeah, and it was the guy that went into the little coffee shop, and he was
This,
like,
yeah.
he didn't know who the guy
His
was.
name
But
was
Sydney,
Carl, wasn't it?
yeah, Carl, and Sydney looks at him kind of strange while she's in the coffee shop, like we
Yeah.
don't even know who he is. And then when Gail comes and run him over, which was funny, I didn't think that was funny. And she gets out the car and they unmask him, and it's like it's that guy from the shop. I was like,
Yeah.
we didn't know nothing about him until later on in the movie we get to know who he was.
Yeah, you find out that he came from the psychiatric ward that's in
Mm.
the movie, if I can speak.
Yeah, it's like
Um, he's basically a no name. I mean, he really had no connection with Sidney Prescott.
Mhm.
Obviously, he was working with the killer or killers of this film, which we'll get into here shortly. But I thought that was kind of cool having a reveal midway through the movie and just a cool way to introduce Gale in Scream 7 for sure.
It sort of reminds me of one of the Ghostface killers in Scream 6 that wasn't the main killer, the guy at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah, like we didn't know nothing about him either, so it's kind of like
yeah.
that.
And I love when Scream does stuff like that because I'm a huge fan of the Scream franchise. It's my fourth favorite franchise of all time. But like this franchise always has the same formula, so I love when they do little different things like that. So
Yeah.
I like that they had a reveal midway through the movie.
Mm.
Um, then we have the characters of Jessica and Lucas, which Jessica is Sidney Prescott's neighbor.
Yeah.
Um, they're cool characters, I guess. I mean, I don't have a ton to really say about them. Lucas is like obsessed with Sidney Prescott and all the Ghostface stuff that's happened. He's kind of like a big fan of like true crime and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he was put in the movie to make people think maybe he's the killer since he's obsessed with that kind of
Yeah,
true crime stuff. But seeing the movie, you find out that he isn't the killer.
right. And it's cool. You know what I love a lot about Scream 7 is to me this one was one of the not hardest. I think you can kind of predict who is going to be the killer in a way, but there is times in Scream 7 where it really throws you off. Like when I first watched it on Thursday, there were times where I was like, wait, whoa, wait a minute. How many killers are there actually? Because you try to count, you try to think, oh, well, this one's with Tatum and this one's at the bar. And then you're like, how many Ghostface killers are there in this one? So you really don't know how many there is. I feel like it does a good job at throwing you off, but you can kind of predict like who the killers are going to be in a way, or at least one of them. But I feel like it does a good job at throwing you off because you don't necessarily know how many there is. So I feel like Scream 7 does a good job at really trying to trick you.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. Ethan, what's his name? Ethan Embry that played one of the killers in the movie. Like he's not
Yeah.
in the movie a whole lot. He's only in that one scene where Sydney and Gail goes to the psychiatric ward. And
Yes.
it totally caught me off guard. I didn't see him being a killer at all because I thought he was just a minor character in the movie.
Which
I
he
thought
really was.
Anna, what's her name? Anna Camp that played Jessica. I
Yeah,
didn't see her
Jessica
either.
is our other killer, which is the neighbor. And I want to get into this. This is one of the big things I want to talk about. This is one of the downfalls of Scream 7 for me. Um, the motive to me sucks. I think the
Yeah.
motive is terrible. The Ghostface reveals outside of the guy that got hit by Gale. The reveals are terrible. I mean, every other Scream movie, there was some meaning behind it. Like there was connections to Sidney Prescott, or in
Hmm.
Scream Six's case, that was Richie's family, so there's a connection to 5 and 6. This one, it's like the most random ghost face killers that we have gotten in the franchise, and I don't think it lands. I think that's what brings this movie down for me. Overall, I like Scream 7 a ton. Like I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think everything around that is great. I think it's a good Scream movie. I think the ending is fine. It's just the reveal and the motive that to me falls short for sure.
What I loved about Scream, I would give it 4 out of 5. What I loved about Scream 7 is the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking that it was really Stu that was the killer.
Yeah.
I really thought it was, but they played it as like, oh, it's freaking AI in the end because
See,
he was like one of the guys was the killer was like an expert in AI technology or something.
yeah. Which let's get into that. What are your whole thoughts on them using AI in Scream 7, which this is another thing that was mentioned in our prediction podcast, which we got right. I personally like the AI thing. I think it works. I think the deep fake AI thing works because it goes with the times. Like Scream is keeping up with the times. AI is obviously a huge thing now on social media. So for me, them making that a part of Scream definitely worked.
I agree. I think it worked because of the day we're living in with AI going crazy now. Like it's really out there now. Um, but what it threw me off because the guy that was in the psychiatric ward said that Stu was in the psychiatric ward, and
Hmm.
then he said that he got out of it. So I don't know. But later on, he said Stu was dead. So I don't know if he's still alive or dead.
Well, there's a few things. I think they did that on purpose because watching it for the second time tonight, I thought about that too. Obviously, I think he was trying to throw them off. Like he knew that was Sidney Prescott and Gail Weather. He knew who it was. I
Hmm.
don't know if that was him just trying to throw them off, or if somehow Stu still could be alive. I mean, I don't even want to keep the theory going. I mean, literally in Scream 7, they say like it's dumb to think that Stu is alive. Like they're pretty much saying like if you think Stu's alive, you're kind of stupid. But they could still do it because like he said something about because Sydney asked like when did he get into this psychiatric ward or whatever, and he said before he got there sometime probably in the late 90s,
Yeah,
which
because he
I'm
worked there
like,
15 years or something. He said.
yeah, which has me like late 90s, so that could be any time late 90s. Like, I think Stu's dead. I'm sticking with it. I know I said on the prediction podcast that if Stu is alive, like, I knew he wasn't going to be the killer. I knew that before even seeing Scream 7 because that's way too predictable. Now, when I did watch it on Thursday night, it had me second guessing it a little bit at times, which this movie does a great job at doing that. But I pretty much knew it wasn't Stu because that's too obvious. Um, but yeah, I don't know if Stu's alive or not. I'm sure that theory is going to continue now, but I'm sure a lot of the Stu heads are happy that they did something with Stu. But overall, I'm a fan of the AI stuff for sure. And since we're on that topic, let's talk about Stu. Let's talk about Matthew Lillard. Um, I think that brings me up to another thing that happened on Thursday night when I told you guys in the earlier in this podcast that my audience gasped at a scene when you first see Matthew Lillard on screen when she gets that video call from him or the deep fake because it's not him. But dude, my theater, everybody in that theater went, oh, like everybody was. It was so cool to hear people react to that. But Matthew Lillard, I mean, come on, he's still great as Stu. It was almost like he just played him again yesterday or in the past 6 movies. I mean, he did a great job. Like I know it's not actually Stu, but man, I'll tell you what, there's some scenes with Matthew Lillard as Stu that is hilarious. I mean, my audience was laughing at some stuff, and it was nice to see Matthew Lillard back. I think that if Stu really is dead, this was a nice way of bringing him back for the fans who've wanted Stu back since the original film.
They didn't just bring him like I mean, yeah, he's AI, but they did some kind of makeup on him to make it look like he had scars from that
Yeah,
that TV that he was thrown on in the original. Yeah, I loved all. I think he had like 3 scenes on the phone and the computer,
yeah,
and yeah, I love Matthew Lillard in that movie, even if that's a little small
hmm
part that we heard.
yeah.
Um,
I loved him in it.
Not only that, you had some other deep fakes of like Roman Bridger from Scream 3 and
Yeah, which I was gonna
and
get into that. You have,
what
dude.
surprised me
I know
was
what you're gonna
Mrs.
say. I
Loomis.
have to mention it too, bro. Dude, when we see Mrs. Loomis, I about lost it in the theater. I was like, no freaking way they got her for that part. That was that was a nice surprise because I don't think she was announced. Like they obviously announced David Arquette, Scott Foley, Matthew Lillard, which they were going to
Yeah.
keep Matthew Lillard's a secret, but of course it got leaked and they pretty much just were like, okay, we might as well announce it. But I was not expecting to see Mrs. Loomis. That was like a cool surprise when she popped up on the screen at the end of the film. I was like, no way.
Yeah, I seen a interview where they did ask Laurie Metcalf if she would come back
If
in a
she would come
screen,
back, yeah.
and she said yeah. So she kind of gave it away there, but we didn't expect to see her.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for
that was a
sure.
very nice surprise to see her. Like I loved her in Scream 2, and seeing her again, I didn't never would expect to see her again. I knew Scott Foley was going to be in it, but not
Yeah.
Laurie. Yeah, that was a great surprise.
Yeah, I think overall, like Scream 7 to me, as I said in the prediction podcast, is now the black sheep of the franchise. I think that I like the direction they went. I like that this one's different. It's definitely different. This is definitely like the black sheep. I mean, it really is.
Mm.
And I like that they did something different. I think Kevin Williamson did a great job. I want to talk about something else, too. I've seen people say, like, this movie had no suspense. But what are you talking about? There is
I
some
disagree.
great suspense in this movie with when Sydney and Tatum is in the wall and Ghostface is
Yeah,
stabbing through the wall. One of the most intense scenes in the whole thing. Uh, the
yeah,
scene where Tatum is she's running through the street and then she hides into the coffee shop. Like that whole scene is intense. Her phone goes off. Um, the
yeah,
scene with Mark, when he gets attacked in I think it's the garage. Yeah, like that's
yeah.
tense. Like that, I think there's great tension in Scream 7. I don't know what people are talking about.
Which with Mark, I thought he got killed in that scene, but they bring
Yeah,
him back, like in Scream 1, where they had the dad in the closet, Cindy's dad, and they
yeah,
kind of bring him out, and then yeah, I thought he had already died. Yeah, I agree. There were some great suspenseful moments in the movie, especially that when they were hiding behind the wall.
yeah,
And I love the scene where Sydney is telling Tatum how to use the gun, telling her to shoot through the wall. I love
yeah.
that scene.
I
Telling her to
love
shoot
that.
him in the head.
I love that she assists Tatum into like telling her where he's at so she could
Yeah,
shoot through the wall to get Ghostface. The part that makes me mad in a way, a small part that I think is dumb in that scene is that she has to explain to her how to take the safety off, like to take the safety off. Like, what? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, you don't have to shoot a gun to know that there's safeties, like safety on a gun. That to me was dumb. I was like, wait, so she doesn't realize that there's a little safety lever? Like, what are we doing?
I mean, she never handled a gun before, probably.
Yeah, but and you don't have to handle a gun to know that.
Yeah, exactly. It's common sense, pretty much.
But other than that, I love that Sydney assists her into telling her where the ghost face is so she can shoot through the wall and get him. The bar scene. We gotta talk about the bar scene. Uh, this
Mhm.
scene to me is where obviously Chad and Mindy really shine as well. I mean, they're great through the whole film. I really like those characters in Scream 7, but they really shine in the bar scene. I love how Mindy is still, trying to be Randy, trying to tell people who she thinks the killer is, and
Yeah,
figuring out what motive is. I love that she's doing that. I think that's cool. Um, Obviously she can't be Randy. You can't replace Randy, but I think it's cool that they're continuing with that. And I thought the whole bar scene was really funny. And again, you want to get into tension and suspense. The bar scene has that.
I agree. Yeah. Especially with the kills in that bar scene.
Yeah.
Um, in particular, Lucas's kill. That was something I
Lucas
didn't never
is
seen coming. That
look,
kind
if
of
you're
kill
one
is
look, look, look,
crazy.
if you're one of these people who complain about the Scream films not having creative kills, that there's too many just knife kills, there's not enough creativity. Lucas's kill is probably one of the best kills in the entire franchise. It's creative, it's something different, but I will say, like, the CGI in that scene is a little eh. It's not like
Yeah,
the best, but I'll tell you what, that kill is so good. It's so creative for Ghostface, and hopefully moving forward, they give Ghostface more kills like that, more creative kills, more that's what
yeah,
he needs. I mean, another like the knife kills are great. I mean, that's Ghostface like signature, the Buck 120. But it's like, give us some more creative stuff. And I think that Kevin Williamson and the writer, heard that complaint and was like, we're gonna do something different. And you have to. I mean, this is the seventh movie in the franchise. You got to do something different. So his kill to me was like definitely a standout.
yeah. Because most of the Scream franchise is just stabbing with a knife, but you got ones like in the original with Tatum's death. That was also a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say his death is my favorite in the movie. and then it would be the girl that was swinging on the suspender.
Yeah, Hannah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
another thing that brings this movie down for me, I have to mention, because I mean we've gone through so much. I know we've been all over the place with this. This is really just a spoiler discussion. It's not even really a review in a way. It's just talking about it. But another downfall to Scream 7 for me is we don't hear enough Roger L. Jackson. He has great lines in Scream 7. He's always great at voicing Ghostface. He's always given great lines. But to me, I feel like they really cut him short in this one. And of course, I know why. Stu was doing his thing. The deep fake AI Stu took over a lot of that. But for me, that really hurts the Scream films, in my opinion. You got to have more Roger L. Jackson. There's a few scenes in there where they could have had the Ghostface voice used, like at the end of the movie when Tatum is, tied up to the chair. Sydney walks outside. They should have had Ghostface say something there instead of just standing there. Or like when Ghostface had the knife up to Tatum's throat, in the house earlier in the film, where they're like
Mhm.
Tatum and she's being held captive by Ghostface. Like, why wasn't there anything said? Ghostface is quiet. To me, that just was kind of like, you guys could have used Roger L. Jackson right there. You guys could have had Ghostface say at least something. Ghostface, he has his iconic lines, but in this one, I feel like Ghostface was kind of more mute than any of the others.
Yeah, I agree. They could have used him way more than what he was given. Like, I love his line in the beginning. He called that one girl a bitch, and she was like, a bitch." I thought it was funny. Yeah, it's really like in the earlier films, Roger L. Jackson was used a lot more than the later films in the franchise. But
Yeah.
I mean, what he was given, he was still on his A game. Like he's
Oh,
never
yeah.
gave a bad performance as the voice. But yeah, maybe in the next movie they'll have him more with more lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do it
Hopefully
anymore.
they will.
The ending to me with with Sydney and Tatum and then the Ghostface reveals, and you find out that it's the guy that was working at the psychiatric ward. And I was like, wait, him? It was kind of like
Yeah.
throw me off. And then when he said Stu, I thought it was gonna be Stu with the
Yeah, you
when he
find
took the
out it
mask
was the
off.
neighbor, Jessica.
Yeah, her motive was pretty weak. I would
It's
agree.
bad. The reveal's bad too. There's no impact to the reveal. Usually there's a pretty decent impact. I mean, Scream 6 didn't have a huge impact. I think Richie and Amber's reveal is good because, I mean, they're crazy. I like that motive better. Scream 6's motive makes sense, but it's not the best reveal. This reveal just falls completely flat. The reveal in Scream 7 is terrible. I think that's the weakest part of the movie. Like I said, I like Scream 7. I like everything around it, but the reveal is literally trash. Like, I think it's terrible. The motive is terrible.
And Sydney's fight though with Anna
Yeah, with
Camp,
Jessica, yeah.
I like her fight with her. She
And her
stabs her.
kill, too. Like, when Tatum comes in there to help Sydney and they shoot her up in the face and her face, like, basically falls off.
Yeah, I love that part. But when Sydney killed the psychiatric guy, she just shot him. There was nothing dramatic about him. She
No.
just shot him right away, and then they had that little fight, and
Yeah.
then the shooting shoots multiple times in the head.
Yeah, overall, I just definitely think the reveal was weak. But I'm a fan of Scream 7. Like I said, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. What would you give Scream 7?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
I love that this one's dividing fans, as weird as that sounds. Like the Scream franchise for me is great. I don't think there's any bad films. I think some are better than others, but I love that this one, because I feel like of course, there's people that don't like certain Scream films, but I feel like with most of the films in the Scream franchise, people's like, yeah, it's good. Like, I love that this one has where people are like, no, I'm not into this one, and I am. I love that this one has done something different with the AI deepfake stuff. I love that they did something with Stu, somehow bringing him back, even though he's not alive. I think it's cool that they did something like that. This Scream movie really takes a gamble. It does something different, and that's why I respect it for sure. But that's how I feel about Scream 7.
What did you think about Marco Beltrami coming back to score the
The
movie?
score was incredible. Like it's great. Even the soundtrack's not that bad. But yeah, no, the score was awesome. I mean, that was definitely a great part in the movie, and we get to hear Red Right Hand, of course.
Oh yeah, I did like that scene. It was a callback to the original where they were on curfew and that song plays, and that's what it
Yeah,
reminds me of. A lot of
but
callbacks in the movie.
oh yeah, a ton of callbacks. But I feel like it doesn't. I've heard people say that it leans too much on nostalgia and stuff. I don't feel that way. I mean, there's some things in it that they could have toned down a little bit, but that doesn't hurt the film to me. The thing that hurts the film the most is that ending, is that reveal.
So you think it's the worst ending in the franchise then?
Oh yeah, by far. Yeah, I think it is by far. But that's really all I have to say about Scream 7. You got anything else you gotta say?
That little short scene that had David Arquette back was like okay, I guess it
I
wasn't.
didn't like it. I thought like the AI stuff works. Even the TV stuff to me was a little bit cringe. To me, a little
Yeah.
bit. It was cool seeing, Mrs. Loomis back and Roman, like David Arquette being thrown in there to me was kind of pointless. I think that if they would have just kept the AI stuff with Stu and didn't involve anybody, I mean, seeing Mrs. Loomis was cool. I thought that was cool, but they didn't need it. If they would have just
No.
kept the AI stuff with Stu, it would have been better. But the David Arquette Dewey thing just it was like that's kind of
It's all
dumb.
fair. He really wasn't needed.
No. But let us know in the comment section down below if you guys have seen Scream 7 and what you think about it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like and subscribe. As I said earlier in the show, we probably will be doing a Scream ranking show because after seeing Scream 7 on Thursday, I didn't know where I was going to rank these films, but now I know exactly where I want to rank them. I thought about it all day today. And then after seeing it again, I know where I want to put it. But yeah, like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Follow Horrorman93 on Instagram. All of that is in the description down below. And with that being said, don't get stabbed. I think I said that last time.